Hi, my name is Dr. Lonnie Connolly, and I will be your instructor for the course. I wanted to offer up some summary of what to expect this semester with me. First, I wanted to share a little bit about the format of the class. This is, of course, Leadership 710, Ethics and Principled Leadership. We are based in philosophy, but I don't consider it to be a philosophical class. Of course, we're going to cover some of the fundamental philosophers that influence our approach towards ethics, but I'd like to think we are very applicable and very topical and relevant to today's organizations and some of the dilemmas that you may face. And so we have a very case study driven format to the class. One of our challenges is to cover all of this format in 7 or 8 weeks, not 16. So if some of you are used to a 16-week format for class, we're going to be moving at an extremely fast pace. To get through the material in 7 or 8 weeks, we have to cover a chapter or two from the textbook and the associated supplemental readings and case studies at a pretty quick clip. And so there are some choices and some flexibility built into the class, but I did want to raise your attention to the fact that time management and kind of plotting out what's due when will be an important element contributing to your success in the class. One of the benefits, though, of taking the class in this format is that it's completely asynchronous, meaning that it's completely online. You can work this class in whatever time zone you are in because there's no requirement at any point in the term to be online at a particular time, even in a virtual classroom. So as long as you mind the due dates and get everything up and in the system on time, you're going to be just fine. Keep in mind that the due dates are in the Eastern time zone. So if you are not in the Eastern time zone, you're going to have to adjust the due dates on your calendar accordingly. And I am also in the Eastern time zone. So I work kind of an Eastern time zone schedule. I'm happy to meet in the evenings. I grade in the evenings on the weekends. But if you do need to get a hold of me, do keep in mind that I'm in the Eastern time zone. You can email me at my Citadel email address. You can also use my personal phone number to text me in an emergency. You can give me a call on that number. And the primary vehicle that I use to give you feedback is going to be Canvas. So I either make notes right in the documents that you upload or use the assignment comments page to give you feedback. And I usually get things graded within 48 hours of the due date. I don't like to be lapped, meaning that I like to have things graded before the next set of due dates approaches. Okay, so syllabus. Some of the frequently asked questions are, can I turn in late assignments? No. Can I use AI? No, except for on one assignment. Can I work at my own pace? Yes, in that it's asynchronous, but you still need to get things due in by the due dates. And what are the important elements of the class, and how do I get an A? So the grading scale is there. I do have rubrics online for each of the assignments in Canvas, and you can access all of the detail in the syllabus and the schedule by clicking on that syllabus tab. Once you click on the syllabus tab, it'll take you to a page that has a PDF of our course syllabus, which you can download or view online, and also a PDF of the course schedule, which will be your guiding beacon for the class because it has all the information on what to do when on just a few pages. Do you need a book for the class? This is the book that you need, Meeting the Ethical Challenges of Leadership. If you buy the book, it costs about $110. You can usually get it in 24 to 48 hours from Amazon. You can download it instantly as an electronic rental, which is good for about 90 days, which covers a term in the class, for about $50 at a variety of different sites, including Amazon, Sage, who's the publisher, Chegg, just whatever your preferred provider is. They also have copies of the book in the bookstore. It's okay to use the 7th edition, but we did transition to the 8th edition. There's not enough differences to make too much of a difference in the class, and you'd be able to figure out the pages are different, the cases are different, but I have the resources that you need for cases and assessments on Canvas, so I wouldn't worry about that too much if you know someone who has the 7th edition that you can get access to. Okay, our main deliverables our case studies, assessment responses. There's one set of group cases that you're going to work with somebody else on in the class. There's a little bit of an experience with a practicum where you get to use servant leadership in your own environment. And then you're going to do some reflective journaling over the course of the class. And at the very end of the class, you're going to create your own ethical decision-making model for use in your own leadership practice. I'm going to share a little bit more information about each of these categories of assignments, specifically because you do have some choice in the first two categories. So for case studies, there are 9 possible cases in the course, but you only have to complete 5 of the 9. And so you get some choice there. I think you should choose based on your time available on the calendar and how it aligns with each of the modules, but also your interest in the topic or the case itself. So again, 9 possible options. You have to do 5. One caveat, everyone has to do the first one. So Module 0 has a case study called the Parable of the Sadhu. So while you have to do 5 of the 9, the Parable of the Sadhu is going to be 1 of the 5 that you have to do. The other 4, you have complete freedom of choice, but everyone's going to do Module 0's Parable of the Sadhu. When you do a case study, you should be prepared to connect it to the content in the course. So there is a requirement for citations. You can cite the book, you can cite the supplemental readings, you could cite other resources as you desire, but you are going to be scholarly in your approach to the analysis of the case studies. Also keep in mind that these case study analyses are posted on our class discussion board, so they are public, and you should be willing to invite public discussion on the cases. As such, you are also going to have a requirement to respond to another person who analyzes the cases on the board. And so allow for enough time for you to post, but then remind yourself to go back in and read and reply to another person's postings on each of the case studies that you complete. You also have freedom of choice on the assessments. So again, there are 9 possible assessments for you to do. 1 of the 9 is required, so you don't have choice on it, and the other 4 you can choose. So another way of saying that is you have to do 5, but 1 of the 5 has to be the Module 6 assessment. And that assessment is going to be done on the Cloverleaf coaching platform. I'll speak more about that in a moment. But this one is 1 of the 5 that you will do, and then the other 4 can come from other modules. Why do assessment responses? Well, most of these are instruments or questionnaires that you fill out. So you have to think about your answers as you fill them out. They're connected to the ideas in the text. They raise your self-awareness. They also give you some understanding as a graduate student what we're really talking about when we talk about a certain construct or model. Unlike the case studies, these aren't particularly scholarly. These are all about you. So you should make them personal. You should write them in the first person and use the word I. You should relate and apply them to whatever content and whatever context your leadership practice is in. So whether you're leading a family, leading a team, leading a community group, leading a class group, or leading in an organization, you're going to try to relate the content and the self-assessment to your behavior in any or all of those environments. I am the only one who reads these. These are not public discussion board posts. These are PDFs or Word documents that you're going to upload for only me to read. As an example, the first assessment that's available to you is in Module 1, so not Module 0, but Module 1, and it is a power profile assessment. So it's intended to give some indication about what your preferences are for how you use power and influence others. And that's one of your 9 possible options for assessments. I mentioned the Module 6 assessment. That's the one that's required. So 1 of your 5 will be for Module 6. It's going to actually be on the platform called Cloverleaf Coaching. You should receive an email with instructions on how to access Cloverleaf. If you've taken another leadership class at the Citadel, you might already have access established because we use it as a department. Once you are in, you can use it as much as you want. There are a multitude of different instruments, some of which you might be available or might be familiar with, like DISC, Myers-Briggs. But you can go in and start taking assessments and build a dashboard to give yourself kind of a more holistic idea of what some of your leadership style or preferences might be. The login page looks a bit like this. We use it as a department to set individual coaching goals, but also team goals on how to collaborate and work with others more constructively in our leadership studies department. And so you can do something similar, even though you're not using it in an organizational context. You can go in and set some coaching goals for yourself. As an aside, it's not required for the course, but you might find it beneficial since you have the tool available to you. Once you set the coaching preferences and have filled out a handful of assessments, you can set the system to email you coaching tips consistent with what you're trying to work on. And so it's a kind of a fun tool to have at your disposal. This is an example of what my dashboard looks like. So again, you can see some of the tools and some of the labels that go along with leadership style and preference. The third category of assignments that we have, I mentioned it before, is a group case. So you're going to work with an assigned group. I'm going to assign random partnerships in the class to do a case analysis together. And so this is an opportunity for you to kind of practice an approach towards ethical dilemma with people that you don't necessarily know very well. Everyone's required to do the group case. It's about midway through the class. As I said, I'm going to assign partners in pairs and it'll be random. There's more instructions on how to do the case when we get closer to it. But the one required assessment, the Module 6 assessment, is tied to this group case. So you're required to do the group case, but you're also required to do this Module 6 assessment as one of your assessments. And I mention it now because this is the one you're going to do here on the Cloverleaf platform. It's the motivating values assessment that you have to do. And so as you get into Cloverleaf, you might want to play around with that one in particular and get a jump start on that assessment tool. It takes about 5 minutes to do. Servant Leadership Practicum. It happens at about Module 8 in the course, where we revisit servant leadership behaviors. A lot of you are going to be familiar with that from other coursework. For some of you, it might be new, but there are 5 particular behaviors associated with servant leadership. And I'm going to challenge you to pick a group, any group in your sphere of influence, and lean into practicing those 5 behaviors for about 5 days. I'm going to challenge you to do it incognito, so don't let them know that you're doing it, but try out these behaviors, really dial into those and see what impact you're able to have. Reflect on what things come easily to you, what things might be more challenging to you. I want you to avoid the tendency to say, oh, I know servant leadership, I always use servant leadership. Instead, really hone in during this 5 days and try to practice and be aware of the impact that you're having with some of the behaviors on the followers or the people that you are working with. I'm looking for very specific behavioral examples of what you've done in accordance with each of the 5 behaviors. And that will be, again, later on in the course. Throughout the course, starting with Module 0, I'd like you to, at the end of each module, jot down some of the major points that stand out to you that either cause you consternation or you'd really like to implement into your leadership practice. Perhaps there's strengths that you think you already do well that support ethical and principled leadership practices. But as we go through the modules, if you jot down the ideas that you have around the content, when you get to the turn-in gates for the reflective journaling, you're going to be in a good spot. So keep a running journal. Bottom line, keep a running journal. I know that there's a bit of a love-hate relationship with journaling. Some of you love it, some of you hate it. But this particular activity is actually a result of student requests, kind of a reading log, right? A Cliff's Notes version of your own creation of the one page of salient points that you have for each of the modules. And so rather than try to outline each of the chapters that you read and incorporate all the other materials, I just want you to kind of sit back after you finished a module and say, what stands out to me? And jot that down in a one-pager and compile those. And so you're going to turn your reflective journals in at 2 points in the class, one about midway through. So modules 0 through 4 are going to be captured in that one. And then you're going to continue to accumulate and turn in a cumulative journal that takes us all the way through module 10 at the very end of the class. And the class itself kind of culminates in the pinnacle project of creating this ethical decision-making model. It'll be the key takeaway for your leadership practice. My hope is that by the time we get to this, you will have enough models, enough ethical foundation, enough philosophical foundation, enough reflection on your own virtues and values that you can create a somewhat simplified model of the questions that you will ask and the perspectives that you will take when faced with an ethical dilemma, not just for yourself, but as you walk a team through trying to make a difficult decision about something that's not very clear-cut ethically. And so this is the one assignment that you are allowed to use AI for. You can use it in the creation of the model, and you can also use it in the creation of a graphic that kind of encapsulates your model. But there will be more information on how to approach the ethical decision-making model towards the end of the class. This is a snippet of what the course outline looks like. Week by week, module by module, you have supplemental readings, you have the questions for assessments, and in your version online, you will also have the due dates for the semester so you can follow along with this. There are a couple of different types of icons I have on this. One is a bubble with an exclamation point. That means it's an assignment that everybody has to turn in. The open book means that the reading that's assigned is from the Johnson textbook. The one-page closed book means that it's a supplemental article from a scholarly journal that's a PDF on our Canvas site. And then I do offer up for your entertainment and consideration some podcasts that are great if you've got a drive or you're looking for something to listen to as you work out. There are some podcasts that supplement the material as well. So that's what you'll find at the syllabus itself and the course outline. If you click here on the modules tab, it will take you through the modules, which open up on a time to schedule as the class unfolds. But today you should be able to click on this and see a couple of modules, the first of which is module 0. So that's how we open the class, with module 0. It's module 0 because not everybody has the book yet. Module 1 takes us into the first chapter of the book. So module 0 is kind of the prequel to the textbook. Understanding that not all of you have downloaded it or received your physical books yet. So all of the material in module 1 you could do without the textbook. You'll see each module set up with an overview, the activities, the supplemental readings, and any of the pertinent handouts. If you click on the overview, the format for the overviews look like the learning outcomes for each of the modules, a to-do list with the links that take you to the assignments and the readings, and most, but not all of the modules have a brief video lecture from yours truly that kind of puts some framework around the content for the module. And so that is that for your video introduction. I know I've thrown a lot of information at you quickly. It's kind of par for the course since we're moving quickly through our 7 or 8 weeks. If you need me for any reason at all, including to clarify some confusion I've created in this video, please reach out to me at my Citadel email address. Again, in an emergency, you can use my phone number to text or even call me if you need to. And otherwise, I will look for you on Canvas with your first submissions, and you can look for me on Canvas with feedback. I look forward to working with each and every one of you this class. We have a lot of opportunity to get to know each other through the exchanges and the Turnitin and the feedbacks. So it's usually a rewarding experience for me. I hope it's a rewarding experience for you as well.